Welcome to the Book Party Podcast. Join us as we journey into the world of books with Michael T. Prepare to be captivated by engaging interviews, insightful discussions, and fascinating stories. You'll discover new adventures and gain insight into the creative process of the authors themselves as they share their struggles and accomplishments. Now let's hear from Michael T.
Michael T. with the Book Party Podcast. Welcome, dear listeners, to a journey that will tickle your imagination and warm your heart. Friday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, we're diving into an enchanting world of a master storyteller, Mark McCraw. From the heartwarming tales of Rules, Rules, Rules to the hilarious escapades of the toilet paper caper of 2020, Mark McCraw has woven stories that have captivated the minds of children and adults alike. But that's not all. His latest gem, Babbling Betty, is about to whisk us away on another unforgettable adventure. Beyond the pages of his books, Mark has a journey is able to remarkable as his stories, with a background spanning education, military service, and even pastoral care. He's a true Renaissance man with the experiences that have undoubtedly shaped the depth and authenticity of his narratives. A former elementary school teacher, Air Force veteran, and a loving father and grandfather, Mark McCraw's passion for connecting with people of all ages shines through his work. Each tale he spins carries a sprinkle of wisdom and a dash of humor, making them delightful to read and meaningful life lessons. So, my friends, whether you're a young reader embarking on your very first literary adventure or an adult seeking nostalgia, you're in for a treat. Join us as we explore the mind behind the magic, uncovering the inspirations, the stories behind the stories, and the incredible journey, stories that has brought us these cherished tales. Get ready to be transported to worlds where imagination knows no bounds, where life's lessons are wrapped in laughter, and where every page turn is an invitation to explore the extraordinary. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast celebrating the extraordinary storyteller, Mark McCraw. Mark, why don't you take it from here, fill in the blanks a bit, and tell our listeners about yourself?
Yes, hi. It's good to hear from you, Michael. I'm looking forward to this great podcast, and I've been a children's book author in Oklahoma since 1921, or since 2021, I meant, and I've really enjoyed being on this journey. I never thought that I would get this far, and I have a formal background, as you said, in education and pastoral, corrections officer. I've done a lot of different jobs. I've learned a lot along the way. I've used a lot of these stories from my children and my grandchildren and interwoven them into some of the books that I've written, and try to dedicate each book to a child or grandchild, and also some of the elementary background experiences. I try to weave those into the stories as well.
I remember you had told us before that getting out your first book was your plan, and now you're sitting on 3 more books after book 8, and you never thought you'd get this far. Is that the case?
That is true. I've never thought I'd get past the first book. When I actually talked to the publisher when the first book came out, Archway Publishing, they were surprised that I had written so many books after that in the first year that many other authors take a long time to write. So I was really happy about that. I realized that, I had these stories, and why not tell them? And I have so many people that come up to me in the last couple of years at different events, and they say, I can't write a story, or I can't do this. I'm like, sure you can. You have a lot of stories to tell, and you can get those things out in the world, and you never know who you can touch.
Exactly. So you have an agency. Is this a full agency, or is this a smaller agency that you collaborate with and do some of the other work yourself?
Well, I've used two publishers. They're self-publishing companies, Archway Publishing and which is under Simon and Schuster, and also Palmetto Publishing. Those were the main two publishers, self-publishers that I went through. The first one, the first book, Did You Come Home for Lunch? Took me about 9 months to go through the different departments. And once it was done, I was excited that that book went on to the San Diego Festival of Books. It went on to Times Square. I believe it was also sent into the hands of Simon and Schuster. So I was really excited about that, and that things are going really well, actually. Just a lot of different events coming up and being able to read to other students in schools. And so I'm excited about this journey.
But
The
that
rest of the
seemed
books,
9 months seemed to be a long time.
it is seem like a long time, but you got to remember I'm going through different departments, through formatters and editors and illustrators and, marketers and publishers and all of that. So there's different departments that I'm going through. Now the other books that I've done by myself through vendors and things of that nature. I'm not an illustrator. So I hire a lot of different vendors to do those projects and things that I'm not able to do.
So is that through like Upstart, Fiverr, things like that?
Through Fiverr.com. I use a lot of vendors on Fiverr, and that's Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com, and there's just some really good people on that platform, and I try to build a team of people that I can work with, and typically I go pretty much to the same people all the time, and I know the quality of the work, so I'm really impressed with the people that I work with.
Yeah, I use Fiverr myself because building a team is really a key. After you get past 2 or 3 books, then it's much, much faster when you have a team that can, that you can trust to get the right work done the way you want it done. So take us to a point what you would consider, and I mean, now that you've written so many books, let's just go with all of them, that you would consider a worst author moment, and tell us a story about that.
I think the very worst author moment I had was when I wrote Babbling Betty. I did not realize that I was going from first person to second person to third person and switching back and forth. And it wasn't until I went through an editing process, having another person look at it from their eyes and see that, oh, you know what, you're going back and forth. And so what I did is I took the story and went back to the editor, to another editor, and that I had hired, and I asked them to help me rewrite it, and it actually turned out really good. I mean, the story didn't change; it's just the person, the changed, the first person, whatever, had changed. So it made it a much better book, and I was happy with the results.
Well, that's fantastic. So I know we did this for your first book that we went through, but since then it's been a little while, and now you're at Babbling Betty, and you have these other books. Take us through what we call the epiphany moment. Have you had that since then, where that bright light bulb goes off in your head and you've had this epiphany moment that, tell us about that?
Okay, well, the funniest thing is I've typically don't write books about animals. I know that they sell out there. But that being said, I actually had an event that happened at my daughter-in-law's house. That particular bug or whatever got on me, and all of a sudden I decided that I was going to write this poem. And I'm not that great when it comes to poems, but I just had an epiphany that I had to write it down and text it to myself, and I actually read it to someone, and they said, that's not too bad, So I was really surprised that it came out like that, so. But I was excited. So that's going to be a future book down the road. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully it'll, touch the lives of those little children, kindergarten, first graders. That's kind of the realm that I want it to be in.
Yeah, and when you're writing these children's books, a lot of times you've got to write it seeing through their eyes and not through our adult eyes. Is that difficult to do?
Well, I'm a kid at heart. I've always been. I get in trouble if I go to Walmart or places like that because I always like gadgets and gadgets, and I guess that comes from the fact that I was a second grade teacher, and I'm not too unhappy about getting down on the floor with them because I may not be able to get back up, but I do enjoy getting down at their level and being able to talk to them at their level and just really see their smiles on their face and those kind of things. So I enjoy that. That's the most rewarding for me.
Okay, well, what is the one thing that you're the most fired up about or excited about today, right now?
I am fired up that I was on a website yesterday and I looked on a particular place overseas and books are already sold out on Brains Over Brawn. So I was excited about that. That one just came out last week on Amazon. And so I'm excited about that. It's a book about bullying. And which is an epidemic. And it's, starts even at the kindergarten level and on up. And it's a big concern of mine. I've seen it as a teacher before. And I think that we really need to do a better job in helping children to be able to prevent bullying as much as possible, because it is affecting society as a whole.
I agree. This is Michael T. We invite you to go to thebookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, then scroll down to the icon of your choice, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. You can download and follow us there, and please leave a review. Don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter to get the latest information on our upcoming shows. Now, Mark, we're going to enter the lightning round where we have 4 pointed questions for 4 pointed answers. Now, I know we went through this on your first book, but we're going to go through this again because we're a number of books down the road. And I don't remember your first answers on this, so we'll go through this again. So what was holding you back from becoming an author in the first place before you started writing?
I think just life, working, money, those are the two big things. It costs a lot of money to publish. Even if you're doing it on your own, it may seem like it's not, but it does cost to get those kind of projects that you want it to be in good quality, that you want in some of the major retailers or even in bookstores. You don't want something that's not going to be very good. You want it to be in good quality. And so I think that's the biggest thing, that later on down the line that I used these stories and saved them up in my brain and kind of recalled from that memory.
Okay, well, what was the best advice when you're writing that you have ever received?
Really don't give up. That's the biggest thing, is just keep writing. Writers write, plumbers do plumbing, that kind of thing, and teachers teach, so, as a writer, you need to be constantly writing or thinking about the next book or, so I've already got manuscripts already out that I've done pre-writing on, and I've already got the next 7 titles already listed down that I'm going to be working on, and I know how I want to approach it. So I'm kind of when it comes to writing, I'm kind of a long-range planner, and that's kind of how I do it, is I just put it in file folders and come back to it later on and then, revise it and things of that nature.
Okay, well, share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Really just writing down immediately, not waiting, because if I don't write it down right away, I'm going to forget it, or later on it might be not as good as the first time that I thought about it. So I try to text myself, I try to write it down as quickly as possible, and sometimes even at an event I will do the same thing. If I'm not getting a lot of people buying the books at that particular moment, I'm constantly either writing a manuscript or planning the next event. So I constantly try to stay busy.
Well, this is going to be question number 5 because it's not in my 4 questions, but when you've got titles that you're sitting on and you have moments that you think of something for other titles, do you go ahead and write those in and put them in those file folders even though you're not really working on them now, but you think of things and say, oh, I need to put that in those file folders.
I do. If I have a title that I already know that I'm going to have out there, I already kind of know what the direction I'm going to go in. But typically I do the pre-writing on it. So if I already have a title in mind, then I'll start doing the pre-writing. So that's really the crux of that.
Okay. Share, besides Fiverr, because we've already talked about Fiverr, share an internet resource with our listeners that you use when you write.
For the longest time, I would use Pro Writing Aid, which is a program that helps you with your grammar and mechanics and all that. So there's a lot of those like Grammarly out there, things of that nature. So I do use those from time to time. And the other key really is just having multiple people editing your work. So that you're not, having a lot of punctuation issues and grammar issues and things of that nature. So I do use Microsoft Word. I do use, editing programs and other people to help me edit the work.
Okay. I know people that use like a thesaurus, that they want to use to make sure they're not repeating the same words, and they want to get more in depth, as they go along. But in children's books, you don't want to get too technical with your wording because they're children's books. So
Exactly.
You want to stay untechnical with your words. So
True.
a thesaurus might be good, but might be sometimes a little too technical. So, Mark, we're going to enter into the grand finale. And what I'd like you to do here is just tell the listeners about Babbling Betty. Tell them about that book, how it became a book, and tell them about Babbling Betty.
Okay, Babbling Betty actually came about with part of my life as a child, and I've been known to babble a lot, so that's where a lot of it came. Some of the stories that I had as a child are interwoven into Babbling Betty. It is an alliteration book using the letter B. I've read it to several different schools. I've also had children have actually come up to me recently and said they really liked the book, and I said it's one of those books that if you read it too fast, it could be a problem because it's got a lot of B's in there, and so it can sound like a tongue twister. And I've actually been told that even in the summary and stuff, if you read it too fast, it could sound like a Dr. Seuss book, but it's not obviously not a Dr. Seuss book. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed putting the stories in there. I enjoyed working with an illustrator on TikTok called Artful Alley, and her name, is Allison Vandenbosch, and she does a lot of artwork, needlework and needlepoint and some other things that she does. And I'm just really excited that it turned out the way it did, and that many different children have experienced that book and realized that here's a character, Betty, who reads a lot. She goes to the library. She's very smart. She's a brainiac, but she seems to get into trouble when she goes to school, and her friends get tired of it, so they put their fingers in their ears and all that, and she gets in trouble in class and all that. So, but some really good ending results come out. So I'm not going to tell you the ending, but I will tell you that it's an exciting ending, and so I'm hoping that the readers will read it and realize and enjoy the story that was written there.
I hope so, too. Well, Mark, we thank you so much for being here with us today and opening up to us, and I'm sure our listeners appreciate this, too. Again, this is Michael T. To all our listeners, I would invite you to go to bookpartypodcast.com, hit that subscribe tab on top, scroll down to the icon of your choice where you can find us on one of your favorite platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or Odyssey. You can download and follow us there, and please leave a review. Don't forget to sign up for our video newsletter to get the information on our upcoming shows. Book Party Podcast is owned and powered by MCM Legacy Publishing. This is Michael T. signing off.
You must not miss our next episode as we delve into a world of inspiration, entertainment, and thought-provoking insights. Join Michael T. on the next Book Party podcast and experience a new adventure, a new story, and a complete immersion into the world of Pages Unveiled, Chronicles of the Writing Journey.